networks. We went to Food Network, we went to Travel Channel. It took us 3.5 years for the show to actually sell because every network exec told us sustainability is boring. No one gives a shit. That's what they said. No one has time, no one can really think about it. And I think the key with sustainability and making it approachable to people is making it sexy. And I think Imperfect does that really, it's true. It's like, if you guys remember early Imperfect days, they put little googly eyes.
You still do.
You still do it? Okay, I love it. And it would be on like a Romanesco like this, and they would kind of humanize it, and they would make it relatable. And I think before you get into any conversation around stats, you can talk about the fact that 40%, I mean, you're talking like, half of this onion, 40% of the food that gets produced in America gets thrown away. You can talk about the fact that 640 pounds per person of food gets thrown away in America. 640 pounds. Think about how much you weigh and then multiply that, and that's how much food per person we're throwing away. That's insane. It dies on the farm, it dies on our shelves, and most of all, it dies in our homes. Consumers are the number one, more than restaurants, more than hotels, more than anywhere. We at home are throwing away more food. And to make it approachable the way Imperfect does, to try and storytell it the way that I try and do, is crucial. If you don't make it entertaining, if you don't make it delicious, if you don't make it approachable, no one's gonna care. And going back to what the network exec said, how do we make this stuff amazing? So we're gonna try and do that today. And Philip, I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot. Where's my knife? So what are the 5 reasons why food gets rejected from the grocery store?
So the size is wrong.
Size is wrong, so like, this would never be in a grocery store.
That's too small.
Too small.
The color's off.
Color's off, yep, blemish. What else? The symmetry.
The
Shape is weird, by the way, we found a male carrot, if anyone's curious. What else?
What else? Herbs that flower, for example. Like supermarkets can't sell herbs that have flower.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
Okay.
we do, like rosemary,
Flowered
for
herbs.
example.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another reason. Chipped things, so chipped almonds, so things that have a mechanical challenge.
Unbelievable.
And then overproduction. So
Yeah,
nature
guys.
plays a pass on you. It was a particularly sunny spring, and you have too much.
Exact surplus. Totally. So when I think about, and also, when I think about our responsibility at home is to use what we've got. And so think about recipes that can take on a lot. We're gonna whip up a frittata because my wife's dad, who's a winemaker in Walla Walla, thinks he's the bomb. Taught me this, and I'm like, I was studied in Italy. I know how to make a frittata. I ate his frittata. I'm like, touche. This is a really good frittata. So this is how I make my frittata. It's based off him, but it takes on anything. So we've got our really small onion that's going to go into some olive oil, and this is Imperfect olive oil. And I think that's important to note that Imperfect used to be Imperfect produce, but now it's Imperfect foods, and it's really stretching out to different types. You're going to find things like pasta brands, and you've got condiments. I've got really good nuts. So lots of different foods that are kind of getting rejected. Here's a pepper that doesn't stand up on its own, and this is a problem because they can't stack it at grocery stores. So this pepper is literally not being sold because it won't stack. That's ridiculous. By the way, best way to cut a pepper is cut the top off, bottom off, sneak your knife in, and then roll. Get out all the seeds. This, unfortunately, is cooking crappy, not cooking scrappy. So this, unfortunately, is not edible. But this is a really good way to kind of cut it. And I do want to call out my new buddies. This pan is really special. It's a company here in Seattle called Abbio, A-B-B-I-O. The boys who started, their brothers. Give yourselves a little bit of a hello to everyone. Eric and Jonathan, give it up. They just started. They're really cool, and they're trying to really make cookware approachable the way that we're trying to make all recipes approachable. And so really check them out. Abbio started a couple of months ago. Rad company. You look at something like a Romanesco cauliflower, right? Has anyone cooked with this before?
Yeah.
Love this. Love this. I love the texture of this. So again, we're just kind of sauteing these up. But you look at this and you think about it in the field, it's actually wrapped in leaves. And one of the biggest problems that grocery stores have, and I think Imperfect Foods has, is if you saw this on the shelf, and maybe not you guys because a lot of you guys cook, but like if you saw this on the shelf, you wouldn't buy this. Like you can't, like what do you do with this, right? And the reality is leaves of cauliflower, leaves of broccoli, they taste like bok choy. Really delicious in a stir fry, quickly cooked. You can throw it in kind of a fried rice, anything like that. So that's going right in. All right, we're just gonna toss this through. By the way, what I love about this pan, if you guys have a chance, you can even pass this around. If you feel it's kind of rough inside, nothing sticks to it. I love it. And then when you cut this cauliflower, I cut it in half. Always when something's round, cut it so it sits flat. Otherwise, you might lose a pinky. Happens. Thank you for the one guy who left in that joke. And then a lot of people take out the core, so they kind of sit it flat on its side, and then kind of break this up in here, and they just lose the core. Core is phenomenal, and obviously stocks, but really good in soups and stews, and you don't even have to cut it up small. So cores of cauliflower, things like that, just kind of toss it all in. And when I think about this frittata, by the way, I remember when I was taught this by my father-in-law, I was cutting a piece of cauliflower like this, and he was like, I need it smaller. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, so I just started chopping. And I go, Gino, I said, look, he's like Italian, I'm Jewish, there was a little bit of a, and he goes, it's not small enough. And I'm like, I've got a culinary school, I'll go smaller. So I went even smaller. And he's like, Joel, it's still not small enough. And I'm like, this guy's testing me. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy's testing me because I'm dating his daughter. And so I did it one more time, and this time it was like pulp. And he turned around, he's like, it's still not small enough. And I'm like, this is a joke. So I just literally went to the side of it and made the noise, like, and I'm like, Gino, how about this? He's like, perfect. It's awesome. I'm like, you're a dick, buddy. I love it. So he was totally testing me, but this frittata means a lot. And I think recipes like this that are kind of a catch-all really help food waste, because it's on a Wednesday night. It's on a night like tonight where you maybe want to order in, you maybe want to go back to the grocery store because you don't know what you have, but can you look at kind of what you have as extra and really make the most of it? Carrots like these, obviously, you don't see these in grocery stores. And it's interesting because a lot of grocery stores will say, we like to stand up for Imperfect, we like to stand up for things that are misshaped. They don't. There's a reason why you don't see it. So it's really helpful that someone like Imperfect doesn't even require you to go find it and bring it home, they bring it to you, which I love. This carrot tastes just like any other carrot, right? So I'm just gonna shave this really, really small. By the way, when you chop, for those of you who don't cook a lot at home, pinch the top, wrap your fingers around the bottom. Don't go like this, or definitely don't go like that. Cool? So pinch the top, wrap your fingers around the bottom, and just kind of slice really, really thin. And what I love about cooking like this is it can be done, I mean, this is gonna be done in the next 5 minutes or so. And this show, Seconds, that I just kind of came out with, refers to kind of second choice and using kind of things that maybe you're giving a second look at, but it also refers to time, because I know on a weekday we don't really have that much time. So every episode is shot in 15 minutes live, so we don't cheat. And you see if I can actually make it or not. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So I added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then this part is kind of the part that I love, which is I'm gonna grab some eggs. And when you make a frittata, you guys, a lot of people add way too many eggs. So your egg to filling ratio is way too much egg and not enough filling. And this is a frittata. You could also kind of think of this as kind of like a tortilla español, right? You want it really dense. That is the key. Don't add any cream, and don't add salt too early. Does anyone know why you wouldn't salt eggs early? Turn gray, yes, and it kind of cooks them and cures them. So you want to be really careful of that. I'm gonna add like 7 eggs. And basically I'd say for every half handful of filling, you should add 1 egg. Does that make sense? That's how I measure. I barely measure. So a little salt and pepper in the eggs. Got a little shell in there, we're gonna get that out. Beautiful. And then a ton of cheese. I told you my father-in-law was Italian. If you go buy the sawdust tennis ball can of Parmesan cheese, I'm coming over and just slapping your wrist. Can't do it. You cannot cook with that piece of crap. So buy the Parmesan that has the stamp on it, right? And you guys are getting into cheese, right? Like there's cheese. Yeah, dairy is becoming a thing. So I'm excited to kind of see what you guys bring forward. But I love the kind of salty, crunchy, almost pepperiness of really real Parmesan. And when I say a lot of cheese in this, I'm not stopping. I'll make eye contact with each one of you before I start breaking. Cool. So lots of cheese in. You don't need too much salt because this is going to bring a lot of saltiness. Beautiful. And then you just kind of whisk this up. Does everyone here kind of make frittatas, tortillas at home? Yeah, ish. Yeah. So this technique's a little bit different because frittatas usually go in the oven. And if you put it in the oven, it kind of dries out. But if you do it stovetop, although it's a little bit more scary, way, way, way more dense and successful. So I'm gonna add all the hot veggies right to my eggs. By the way, that looks really beautiful already, doesn't it? All right, and I'm gonna fold this through in the bowl. Lots of olive oil back in. Told you Italian, I'm not apologizing. And again, you don't have to go too crazy because the pan will release. And then a little bit of butter. Anyone know why I'm adding butter now as opposed to like later? No? Because it could burn. So the reason why I didn't add, I'm sorry, I said later, but the reason why I didn't add butter in the beginning is because we're cooking really high heat and the butter will burn. So now we're gonna kind of lower the heat. We're gonna add the mixture right back in. Let nothing go to waste. See, this is kind of where it all started. So being the head chef for Sur La Table, my job was to like travel the country and really teach home cooks and create curriculum on how they can cook at home. And I remember teaching a class and seeing a lot of this, like in these, this, right? Even these, in people's, we have little trash bowls and they're see-through. And I remember thinking, the chefs that I went to restaurants with, that I grew up with, and that I learned from in culinary school, they would kill me if we threw this away. If Chef Eric saw what I was, saw this is pure profit for a restaurant. We don't throw anything away. So to me, there was a huge miss in how people cook at restaurants, which they were already kind of cooking scrappy, and how people cook at home. We just forgot, like I said, we just didn't really remember where to go with it. So we're gonna let this kind of build a crust, and then we're gonna flip it, which is gonna be just, that was the smartest move I came up with, is to bring a crowd of people around and flip some eggs. But I'm gonna put all these scraps in here. Obviously, everything here, the peels, everything can be used for stock. The eggs themselves, you can dry out in the oven. Some people grind them in smoothies for a calcium hit. I don't do that, that sounds a little cray. But you can also just throw them in your garden, and they're delicious. So I do have a cookbook, and I thought while we were waiting for 3 seconds, we could do a little trivia. This is the one cookbook I had in town. So let me just preface. For some reason, there's a little banana on the back side. It's probably cooking. And I signed this one to Greg. I don't even know who Greg is. So this is a seconds copy of my cookbook. It's an imperfect cookbook. I'm just going to preface that. But it's an awesome cookbook and a funny story. So it's a little sticky, and it's the only one I love how Tim loves it. I'm a wreck. So I'm going to ask a trivia piece here, and whoever nails it will go home with it. How many pounds per person do we waste in America when it comes to food? Waste.
640.
640? Did you have one?
500.
500? 650? Any other check?
658.
When Price is Right real fast there. 650, give it up. A little sticky.
It is a little sticky.
I didn't lie, yeah. So what I'm doing now, guys, just so you guys can see.
Congratulations, Greg.
What's that?
Congratulations.
Yeah, Greg. So what you're going to do now, and it got a little bit scorched on the bottom, but that's okay. I kind of forgot about it. But I'm going to put something flat on top, little cutting board here. Flip it over. And you can see once I got a little bit burnt, but actually we're not presenting it on that side, so you can make it imperfect. And then really carefully slide it back in, tuck it, shape it. Actually, not too shabby. And this is the best way to make a frittata. I kind of turn